Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold, a Miami real estate podcast. We're going to spend the next hour talking about what's going on in the real estate market in the South Florida area. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm a founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm going to pass the baton over to the moderator of our show, Daniel Hernandez. He is a real estate professional over at Compass Real Estate. His office is based in Coconut Grove. He does single-family houses as well as condos. Happy Friday there, Daniel.
What is happening, Peter? Can you hear me okay? Because we just went live on LinkedIn, and I don't really know where we are on the internet. We are on YouTube. We are on Substack. Hi, Peter. Well, for everybody else, my name is Daniel Hernandez. This is October the 17th, episode number 22 of Buy, Sell, Fold Miami. What are we? We are a South Florida real estate talk show. What does that mean with South Florida real estate talk show? So every week, Peter and I, we send stories back and forth. It's kind of like a group chat, but it's just two guys. And we send stories about development. We send stories about community news. We send stories about, well, anything that really has to do with real estate and some things that don't. And on Fridays, we create what's called a rundown. And so on this show, you got us for an hour, and we discuss these things back and forth and back and forth. And at the end of each topic, we either buy it, we like it, we sell it, that's bullshit, or we hold it because we don't know. And if you stuck with us from last week we brought on our first guest, and it was great. David was great, huh, Peter? It was fun, bringing in a nice an extra viewpoint. Well, Peter, from his vast network of, he has the vastest real estate network. He's been here for like 100 years. He brought on an owner broker from a realty out in Hallandale called Ray Dient, and that's a play on her name, Julia Ray. She is a Ukrainian owner broker, and she's going to give us some even deeper insights. To think we could go even deeper from what Peter's condo insights are. She's on the ground in Hallandale, in Sunny Isles, dealing with Canadians, dealing with Eastern Europeans, dealing with some Latinos who don't like Miami that much. And some domestics who she's renting, selling, pre-construction, resale. We're going to have her join us right now. What's going on, Julia?
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. Love the music,
Peter. Thank you so much for joining. That everybody loves the music. You're gonna tell her now?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, a buddy of mine who's a tech guy, he set up an AI music company. I said, hey, can you make me a theme song for the podcast? He did. He asked that I go ahead and put the, the logo at the beginning. So if anybody is interested in having their own music created, there's no copyright issues. It's called buildreach.com. The guy's name is John Mora. So reach out to him and maybe he can help you out.
Hey.
Amazing.
Well, we got an action-packed hour. Actually, and how inconsiderate of me. Julia, can you introduce yourself to the rest of the world here? We got a bunch of loyal viewers watching, and they're on LinkedIn today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a real pleasure, and I've known Peter for many, many years. How many, Peter? Probably from my first days in real estate, right? So I started in the property management and real estate in 2008, more or less, at the end of 2008, as a property manager. And very quickly, I kind of oriented myself. I, wanted to know more about all those realtors that were bringing me contracts, and I didn't know much about it. So I just extended my education into real estate. In 2011, I became a licensed realtor, and in 2013, I opened up my own brokerage. I own a small brokerage, very boutique, only 5 agents in Hallandale, and we service mainly condos. I specialize in condos because that's my background. I used to manage a condo, and I privately manage few condos until this day. So that's pretty much my background. Majority of our work is done in condo in Fort Lauderdale, Hallandale, Hollywood, Sunny Isles, Aventura.
All right. Amazing. Well, thank you again for taking the time on the Friday afternoon to come hang out with Peter and I. We promise we won't get too crazy on you. But with that, let's let's jump into it. Peter, biggest news, or I'd argue, biggest news of the week is, and you gotta say my rundown title is at least a little punny, right?
Yeah, I'd say it is.
Schvoed out of the Raleigh, shoved out of the Raleigh. So Michael Schvo, and we were talking about how to pronounce his name, and so from here on out, we're just gonna say Schvo, whether it's right or wrong. Julia, you can be the tiebreaker here. Is it right or wrong?
Well, I think so.
Michael Schvo.
Schmo?
Well, Schvo. Michael Schvo. So the Raleigh, everybody, I'm going to bring it up on Google Maps so everybody can see. Julia, you let us know if you can see that map. You see the map, right?
Yep, I see the map. Yep.
All right. Everybody loves the maps here. So the Raleigh is a property over here on Collins, and what is that, like 18th-ish, right?
Yeah, like
So
17.
You can, yeah, you can see it by that iconic Raleigh pool. And the Raleigh's been there for 80 years, 85 years, I think 1940, I saw on Wikipedia. And the Raleigh is actually just that northernmost parcel, right? And in 2014, it was actually bought by the fashion designer, Tommy Hilfiger. So in 2019, Tommy Hilfiger owned it. He bought it for $67.5 million, which is a lot of money. It's nothing. It's not nothing, right? Faux and his partners paid $103 million for that parcel. It's a 60,000 square foot parcel. It's twice as big as the two parcels just south of it. And this is where it gets interesting, because the two parcels just south of it are both 30,000 square feet. But those were bought for $52 and then $64 million respectively, despite them both being raised, totally knocked down, because the goal here is to create this 3-acre assemblage, which is where Schvo wanted to build visualize this Rosewood branded condo hotel. But now, as of today or yesterday, I don't know when it hit the news, Peter, Schvo's out, and a private equity group out of New York is in. Schvo wound up spending, the public records say, the sum of the amount was like $219 million, but a press release released by Schvo and his associates from 2022 said $243 million. So I don't really know where you get that $20-ish million gap, but that was in 2019. Remember, pre-pandemic, pre-Miami craziness of appreciation. It transacted this week for $270 million. He took a bath, and not like bathhouse, but we can talk about the bathhouse. And I'm not saying that just because you're Eastern European, although I love going. But this is another instance, Peter, of, you'll say an out-of-towner coming in here thinking he's going to do what he's going to do and effectively not get run out of town, but definitely, run off the beach. I don't think he has any more assets on the beach, because he sold his other portfolio last month to try to keep this one alive, and he wound up having to get out of both of them.
This is there's a former journalist who now does investor relations. Guy's name is Jean Gruss. I had him on my podcast last week. And he always says this is the story of Florida. This is exactly what happens. People always come down, they fall in love with the weather, they fall in love with the concept that we're the gateway to Latin America, they fall in love with the concept that there's 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. They've been talking about this forever and ever and ever, going all the way back, I would argue, even to the 1920s Florida land boom. They come down here, they get all bulled up, they're all excited, they're all juiced up, they go in there, they think the numbers are going to be great, they think the market only goes up and the trees grow to the moon. And what ultimately happens? Well, every time we get a shakeout, then you will see the smart, prudent money sit on the sidelines. They'll then step up, they'll take down the property, they'll reposition it, and they'll be the ones who benefit from it. This is a repetitive cycle that you see over and over and over. And, I point to Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin, I like to bring him up every week. Ken Griffin's the guy who runs Citadel. Ken Griffin has spent a bundle on real estate, and he's a perfect example. He's got the wherewithal to write it out. He bought some units. His first acquisition down here was over at the Faina House. He went in there, burning cash. In Faena House, the location is up in the 40s on Collins Avenue. This property's in the 17s. But this always, always, always happens. So anybody who's been around for a little bit of time, they're not surprised by this whatsoever. Now the question is, will this developer, will future developers, do they live to fight another day? I always say they got to do 3 projects. Once they do 3 projects, they've gotten beat up. They got so many battle scars, and at that point, when they're going forward after that, now they're legit. They got street cred. Up until they've done 3 projects, I still sort of think that they're novices. Think about going through high school. So once you're at the point where you're going to get in your senior year and you're going to graduate, then you're legit. Everything before that, chances are you're still kind of learning the rules of engagement in South Florida real estate.
Well, I mean, technically, is this considered 3 projects because it was a 3-parcel?
This is talking about supersizing. He didn't go with the value meal small. He went all the way large.
Well, I don't know anything about valuating hotels. Do either of you? But when I was looking into the history of it, I just thought it was strange. Or maybe he assembled the Raleigh and the southernmost parcel first, and the guy in the middle in the sandwich said, you know what? If you want it, you're going to have to shell out the extra 10 or 15 million because otherwise you don't really have a project. But why did, of the 2 identical parcels, and they look like they have pretty much identical frontage, beach frontage, one went for 52 and one went for 64? Yeah.
I'm not familiar enough with this particular property. I tend to stay away from that area because what these are old hotels. These are the Art Deco hotels. These are the ones that became very popular with the training with World War II, stuff like that. When you had all of the GIs that were down here, they were training before they went off to war. After the war was over, many of them came back here. They started buying Key Biscayne, places like Bell Harbor. They all, Hollywood, Hallandale, they all benefited from sort of just, or I should say the area benefited from the fact that these people got acclimated with the area. They decided they were going to set up shop. But anytime you go into hotel development, you go there because of the sand. The reality is, can you actually reposition that space into something that would be marketable and interesting? I would say just up the street, you got the Carillon. Carillon was turned into a Canyon Ranch for a moment, and that thing ended up going sideways as well. So it's always challenging, my perspective, when you take an older structure, you try to reposition it, and you try to turn it into a condo. It might be great if the tourism market is out of control and if pre-construction prices are flying. But once you see any kind of pullback, then you feel the real pressure of what it is to be in a volatile market like South Florida.
Yeah. Again, not my space. I mean, hotel valuations seem as complicated as like corporate financing for an airline.
We'll take it in the other direction. Take it in the other direction. Let's say the $270 million. Let's say you're going to earmark 10% or 20% for land cost. Okay, so we'll say 20% for land cost. So you figure $90 million an acre or so. So that would be your land cost. A project like this, and you might have paid 20% for the land cost. Then you would simply add what's construction. What do I need to sell it at? It's one thing when the market is heading up, like we were when we came right out of the pandemic, right? When, where in Florida, you didn't have to wear a mask. So people descended on here, and Miami Beach in particular, which is where this property is located. They allowed you to get on police cars and twerk. We saw that all over the world. It was on the BBC. It was everywhere. So everybody came into town. And then what happened? Now we're going back to some normalcy. I said during the pandemic, I feel like, what we're looking at is a python in the Florida Everglades. When that python grabs that alligator and starts sucking it down and trying to digest it, you got that big lump as it works its way through the system. That's what I would argue we went through during the pandemic. And now we're at the tail end where, the market, all of the appreciation is simply being digested, would be my argument.
I got a question for Julia because I feel like she's being shy on us.
Julia is not shy.
So
Julia is not shy. Yeah.
Julia's not shy. All right. So Julia, we're looking at South Beach. Julia's all the way up at Hallandale, past Bell Harbor, past all of that. And there's not as many hotels up there. It's more condo and apartment buildings, correct?
Right.
So
right.
What are we seeing up in that area? We're seeing more terminations and redevelopments rather than just hotel demolition into condo project, right?
Right. We see mostly resales, and there's still several land parcels that we see some major condo luxury developments between Oasis, the Shell Bay, the Icon Beach. There are some terminations in the talk right now, but I have not seen any completed terminations in Hollandale. There's just one undergoing right now in conversations, but not, I don't think it has been completed in the Golden View, right? But there are a lot of the areas completely changing in terms of but to Peter's point, I think what I have witnessed is a lot of people that purchased condos and temporarily sort of relocated here thinking it was going to be their permanent home, couldn't make it, couldn't make the living, couldn't make the same business that they were making up north, and ended up selling and going back, right? It's just a different dynamic. So we see that in the residential market happening, right? And what Peter's talking about is just, on the larger scale.
So did I hear that right? There are still empty land parcels up in that area?
There are developments that are going up right now between the Oasis and Hollandale, the Shell Bay, the condo conversions. There are 2 condo conversions right now, and the Icon Beach, right? The Moon Residences in Hollywood. So there are some lots in Hollywood near the beach, right? So there's still land there. As far as is it going to be resellable and buildable because of the zoning restrictions? We have to see how that develops, right? But I think there's a lot of new development in both Hollandale and Hollywood near the beach that is happening currently.
So, okay, now here's the fun part: speculation hour. And we're not conspiracy
was waiting for
theorists.
that.
We're not conspiracy theorists on buy, sell, hold, but we do look under every rock. And God, does Peter have a lot of rocks in his garden? So, Peter, what do you think happened here? Because Schvo's no schmuck, to alliterate. He's a big power broker, came down here from New York. He's familiar with the scene. He knows the commissioners. He knows what he's supposed to do. And by the way, like, this is I'm not going to say straight shooter development, but you got beachfront, you got redevelopment happening all around you. The Shelbourne just up the street redeveloped. The Ritz Plaza was redeveloped like 10 or 15 years ago. That became the SLS. I mean, there's a lot happening here. And then he partnered with a brand like Rosewood, which, the high-end hotel chain, everybody knows them. They got rooms regularly going for $2,000-$3,000 a night. So what happened here, Peter? Or what do you think happened here?
I'm going through the article. It's a Bloomberg piece, and we'll put it in the show notes. But I'm going through the article, and I don't actually see any kind of response from the ownership as to why they sold. Now, if I were going to sit back and speculate, which I love to do, what I would speculate at is simply they went in, they missed the market. And a lot of times what you learn, especially if you're an experienced developer, maybe somewhere else, and you bring your skill set here, what you learn is a lot of times it's better to get out early and take a small little trim of the hair rather than getting your whole head shaved, kind of like me.
But he bought this in 2019, Peter.
Well, but I'm saying in terms of the way the market's evolving, in terms of maybe what their projections are. Now, and also it might be access to cash. Can you actually get your hands on cash? Can you refinance it? Is there going to be an opportunity? Are you busy with something else? I mean, one of the cop-outs you always hear in the public markets is whenever a CEO says, well, I'm going to go spend time with family. Whenever you hear that, they got pushed out. Here, I didn't see a quote, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to sort of speculate on that. But what I will tell you is supply is growing, sales are stagnant, and in some circumstances, prices are coming down. That's the perfect combination if you are a developer who's thinking about going forward. It's a perfect opportunity to sort of step back. And, why not cash out today and move along and live to fight another day rather than sort of pledging yourself to a project and ultimately going down with that project. I'm not going to say that project would have gone down or anything like that, but it's a certain mentality. I don't know enough about him. He's relatively newer to market, at least from my perspective. So I can't really say he has a tendency to do anything, but this to me seems like a numbers decision. We're running the numbers. These are our projections and we're bailing. Now there could be an asterisk that maybe there is something going on family-wise. Maybe there's something going on where he's spending time with his family. Maybe he wants to be doing something else. But don't forget the history of Miami Beach. The history of Miami Beach, and there's a great book called Bubbles and Sun. If you go through and read it, guy who pretty much put Miami Beach on the map is called Carl Fisher. Carl Fisher, when the market crapped out in the 1920s, he then tried to go into selling houses in the Hamptons, just to give you an idea. So the smart people, they keep moving and they're following the trends. That's what a trader does. They figure out where the opportunity is and then they try to apply themselves. But I would say this is an example of somebody who's selling on Miami Beach, because this is the marquee site.
It's amazing. Look at it. I mean, let me flip the camera up. Let me spin the camera around here. I mean, that's the beach. Bahamas is right there. I mean, I don't, how do you F that up? And I didn't want to curse in front of Julia. You have the Shelbourne that just, I think that sold right after for about 120 million. They redeveloped that. It just reopened to this banging hotel that every influencer is trying to get a staycation comped at. And then as you continue going up the beach, they're renovating hotels left and right. It just, like, what kind of lender doesn't see the writing on the wall and say, like, hey, like, this guy, he could do it. And by the way, a private equity group came in. It's not like they're not doing anything to the site. Somebody just took it off his hands. Somebody took him out. Nala Capital out of New York. NAHLA. Never heard of them. I don't know if they've ever built anything down here, but this'll if this is their first, then they're in for a rough hat trick here, right, Peter?
Yeah, it should be interesting if they haven't been down here before. What I'm assuming is they'll probably try to reposition it, maybe they'll ride out, give some sort of clarity in the marketplace. I'd say right now the view is everything's up in the air. We don't know what's going on with the Liberation Day tariffs. I mean, new tariffs are just imposed on China, and then they were off, and then are we going to trade? Are we not going to trade? There's so much confusion. There's so much uncertainty. The Fed's supposed to make a decision about going forward about interest rates. They don't have data for the jobs numbers, and then this week they were supposed to release inflation numbers, and they don't have that either. And they got two.
Well, apparently they're calling back employees to do the inflation report.
But so
Allegedly.
So what I'm saying is there's a lot of things up in the air, and if you got to burn, if you're sitting on dirt, there's still a cost.
Yeah, maybe we should be calling them Show the Oracle. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But if he is the Oracle, is he going the same way that Squire Properties did when they dumped most of their portfolio?
Listen,
and Crescent Heights, when they dumped, which, by the way, Crescent Heights is actively involved in and around that area. So watch Crescent Heights move. If they move on something like this, when they move, that's the time to go in. If they don't touch it, stay away.
Russell Galvin owned the Shelbourne.
Yes.
He's the guy who sold the Shelbourne. That was 5 years ago.
For disclosure, I think I did consulting on that project. It was one of those. So I don't know if I did or not, but just for disclosure.
Big fat asterisk by Peter's name because he does consulting.
Just in case. But if Russell chases it, it's ready to go. If he doesn't take a shot at it, then it's probably still too early. Anybody who doesn't know, Crescent Heights is probably one of the biggest developers locally. They also do stuff over. I think they used to do in California stuff. But they're like one of the biggest groups you kind of never heard of. Some of the projects they've been involved with include Five Park right there at 5th in Alton, that brand new one that was put up with David Martin of Terra. So yeah, actively involved and real smart people.